I've heard of wrapping yourself in the flag, Tom, but I never thought of it as literal.
Tom, you're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I was on mute. I said it sends a good message.
As people become more and more accustomed to Zoom, they don't log on until like 1 minute before the meeting. So,
Well, and sometimes Betty has trouble getting a connection.
yeah.
But I did talk to everyone yesterday, so I think they're gonna get on.
Did you tell them to wear maroon?
I should have. It could have been the board color.
You're not the boss of me.
I actually have a T-shirt that says
Oh, do you?
yeah.
I always tell John Sesso that in the legislature. You may be Italian, but you're not the boss of me.
Yeah. Oh. Hard to imagine. We're about ready for another legislative session.
Yeah.
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning. How are you doing there?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Yeah, getting ready for the session here. It's here,
It's here.
and Christmas and everything else that's changing that we're dealing with. So we're all in this together.
Yeah. Let's see.
So it looks like we are streaming live out on YouTube now. Mike, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Good morning, Betty.
Good morning.
So I think we're just waiting for Scott to log in. Morning, Martha.
Good morning, Chair Grove. I love your background.
I'm highlighting Region 4 today.
What do you think of that, Vice Chair Mo?
Yeah, that's actually the Butte out by Geraldine. This is a Dale Livesey painting. This was actually in exchange for a mountain bike.
Not sure who got the better of that exchange.
I
You
did.
both did, yeah.
I'll check with Scott. Let's see.
Yeah, and Angie, I just emailed Mike Anderson, our IT expert on the Zoom call today to see if Scott was able to log in or not and just make sure he has the link and everything. So we're working on it too.
Beth or Mike, Scott can't find the link. Could someone resend it to him?
Yep, Mike already did, and it should be in his inbox.
I think he found it, so we'll just give him a few more minutes, and then we'll get started. Beth, Colin Cooney is texting me. Oh, oops, sorry. So we're just checking. I received a couple of texts from people that are trying to call into the meeting, and the password appears to be invalid. So they're checking on that for public members, and then we'll get started.
Okay, I'm here. Let's see, why am I not? I'm so sorry to hold up the meeting, everyone.
Well, that's okay, Scott. I've received a couple of texts from public trying to call in also, and they are having some difficulties. So we're still working out a few
Good.
things.
I'm here
And
now.
there you are.
Thank you.
Good morning.
And
Good
Angie, you might
morning.
want to start the meeting by repeating that number so that people who are listening but still haven't heard it will have the right number.
Thanks, Mary. Beth, could you or Michael text that number to me, or maybe Beth, you could state the number when we start the meeting?
Yes, yep. Michael and I are trying to figure this out. Yep.
Perfect. I think we'll have to maybe put something on the internet saying the number isn't going to help because they aren't logged in and they can't hear us. So just when we get the number, I can text it to the few people I've gotten messages from. And Beth, if you and Michael can just let me know when we're ready to get started, we'll get started.
Yeah, we're on the phone right now trying to determine the right passcode so people can log in and make sure that it gets on the website and that Katie has it so she can make an announcement as well. And the YouTube link is on the website.
On our State Parks Board website?
It's on the State Parks Board website, right? Yep, yep. So they should be able to log in to the YouTube link on the stateparks.mt.gov website.
Okay.
Okay. And Katie, you should have the passcode and call-in number as well, if you wanted to make that quick announcement for the people that might have been able to log in.
Yeah, absolutely. So the phone number is 1-646-558-8656. And the passcode is 209782. Is that all the information that I need to give out, Mike, for people to call in?
Can you text those numbers to me so I can forward them to people? Because they can't hear what we're saying right now.
I can do that, Angie.
Okay.
And just in case the webinar ID is needed, that's 918-5988-2377.
Shall we get started and just see if people can get logged in? Katie, is there any way for you to tell if there's any public members logged in?
I can tell, and there is not anybody logged in right now.
Okay. Okay, I have a couple people say they've got the numbers and they're on the YouTube link. So let's go ahead and get started. Don't want to take too much more of people's time. So let's call this meeting to order. I just want to thank everybody for coming on such short notice. And I know we said it was the last meeting of the year, but there's a few things we needed to wrap up. So thank you for joining us today. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I think Katie's going to try to put the flag on the website for us. Maybe.
Hey, can you guys see that?
Yep. Thank you, Katie. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's funny to do it when everybody else is on mute, but you'll be happy to know my yellow Labrador paid very close attention. Okay, well, we have a pretty short meeting today, and I know it hasn't been too long since we met, but I thought maybe we'd get a few comments from board members. I think what I'll do this time is just say each person's name so we don't mute each other and overlap. So I'll just say your name and then maybe you could provide your board member report. Erica, why don't we start with you?
Thanks, Chair Grove. I'd like to start today with a land acknowledgement. I'm zooming in from Livingston, and so I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on the homeland of the Absalaga and the Tutudaga, both past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. I mentioned this today as part of my ongoing commitment to learning about and from those who've come before me, so I can be a better ancestor of the land I'm blessed to inherit. My board report today is really short. Since our last meeting, my family has been largely out of state. We've been camping in parks and public lands further south where we can be together and safely isolate and be outside. I was able to get a lot of experience with the California State Parks campground reservation system. And my experience in the past with the Montana system has been first come, first served. So once the weather warms up here, I look forward to taking the reservation system in Montana for a test drive and do some compare and contrast. From what I see online already, it looks to be a lot more user-friendly than the California system. But that concludes my report for today. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Erica. Member Brown, do you have anything you'd like to report? Make sure you unmute. You're muted. You're still muted.
Good. I attended along with, I think Mary was there and A, but the Citizens Advisory Committee of Region 5. And we met with legislators, and it was a very informative meeting. And I felt like those that were there, the legislators that were there, were very supportive of state parks. And that's really all I have to report.
Thank you, Scott. Member Stone, do you have anything you'd like to report?
I do not have anything to report since the last meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Chair Moe, do you?
Thank you. As Board Member Brown mentioned, we have several of us been engaged in these conversations with legislators. I now feel that I can do Dylan's presentation by heart. But in my region, it was extremely well attended and I think very helpful. The reactions that Member Brown expressed seem to be what I experienced here as well. And then the other thing that I want board members to be aware of is that in the past week or so, Chair Grove and I have worked on an op-ed that we hope to put out in Montana newspapers before the year is out, expressing the remarkable use of our state parks over the course of the pandemic, how we had record numbers in spite of that and perhaps because of it, and the yeoman service that our park staff did to make that a good experience for Montanans and non-Montanans alike. So I'm hoping that you will see that sometime before the year is out. The reason that we did not involve you is that that would require an open meeting, and in my experience, wordsmithing online is a rare form of torture. So we just did it and think you'll approve of it.
Yes, and we all know that we would rather have the English teacher in our board write that op-ed than any of us also. Thanks everyone. I just kind of want to reiterate the CAC involvement also. I've attended all of them on Zoom, of course, except for Region 4. For some reason, I wasn't invited to or aware of that one. But as Scott and Mary have pointed out, the most common theme has been thankfulness for our state parks and fishing access sites remaining open during the pandemic and providing relief for folks during that difficult time. I think I just would like to say to state parks and fishing access site maintenance staff, it's very, very clear that across the state, we were very grateful for your efforts and your thoughtfulness in keeping them open for the public and safe for their use. It's a really common theme in every one of the advisory council meetings. As Scott pointed out, we've had high attendance from legislators, and they're aware you're out there and the efforts you're putting in. And I want to thank you for all that you've done. I also, even though I'm sure no one's out there listening that's on a CAC, but I do want to point out the volunteers of the CAC really are committed and engaged to the various processes that the department has across the regions. I find them really insightful and very useful in highlighting the similarities and the differences between the regions. They've really been useful for me, and I really appreciate all the effort the regional staff do to make those meetings meaningful. So thanks everyone for the last month of long Zoom meetings, but they've been very, very helpful. So I just wanted to thank you for that. I also wanted to highlight, not that I'm plugging Facebook, but on Facebook yesterday, they showed a new roof going on Fort Owen. And I just really wanted to point that out to the board because we visited there. We've had a lot of discussions about there. At our last meeting, of course, you heard about the opportunities we're getting there, and it looks so cool. So I would encourage everybody to go out there and look at it and just know that the efforts you guys have put in for Fort Owen are actually being put to use on the ground. So that's pretty exciting. I also wanted to remind everybody that the legislative session is coming, just in case you didn't know. And I think the department and the board will try to keep you comprised of anything that's coming up. I think one of the big items that are going to be parks related is there are 3 of us on the board whose term is up this month. Myself, Member Lighthizer, and Member Stone. Our terms are up, so we will have to reapply. And as you know, we all serve at the call of the governor. So we'll see how that process goes. So that will be one parks item on the legislative agenda that I know will be there is board reappointments. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that. But I also wanted to, just in case, thank Member Lighthizer and Member Stone for all you've done. You know, Betty did several visits to Hell Creek, for example, and has really done a good job of keeping us informed of Eastern Montana and the regional priorities out there. She, of course, has to travel the farthest of any of us. So I really want to thank her for all her effort and time in the past biennium. And Erica, I also wanted to thank you for getting involved in the Headwater State Parks planning process. I think it's important that we have board presence in those processes. And I think you've really helped move the needle there. And you've also helped, as you pointed out in your opening comments, remind us of our cultural and historical responsibilities within the park system. So no matter what happens with board membership, I want to make sure that you guys are aware that we appreciate your efforts and your time. So thank you. And I think that is all the comments I have. Director Williams, it's time for her report, and she's holding up a beautiful painting.
So thank you, Madam Chair and Member Brown, Member Lighthizer, Member Moe, and Member Stone. I am holding up this. I'm much more beautiful than seeing my face. I am holding up these posters that are an appreciation for Member Lighthizer and Stone. I hope you do serve again, but these are from the governor in recognition of your service to date. So thank you. And then for my report, Madam Chair, members, good morning. And this is the last meeting where my last meeting with you, where I will serve in the role as director. So it's been an honor, and I especially want to thank each of you for your service. I'm really proud of what we have accomplished together, And I wish you well and much good work into the future. So just thank you for all that you have done. It's been a privilege. Madam Chair.
Well, Martha, I guess I just put it out of my mind. I just assumed we would be still partners in crime for a long time. I apologize for not recognizing your contributions in the last year, or last term, actually. You made the Parks and Focus happen. You have definitely done a lot to bring the department together in unity. You've certainly brought parks back into the fold, so to speak. And you're the reason I'm on the board. So thank you so much. You've moved the needle. You've helped us a lot, and we wish you well in anything you move or go forward do. I assume you'll keep busy, but thank you for your service as well. Would anyone else like to make a comment?
Chairman Grove, I would like to express also my appreciation to Director Williams. I just think your leadership has been exemplary. I think you've done so much for the whole department, and as Chair Grove said, incorporating parks back into the fold. And I think the direction we're headed is great, and attributed a lot to your work and leadership. Thank you.
Any other comments? Scott?
Yes, Angie, I would like to thank Director Williams, and it's been a pleasure getting to know you and work under you. And you've done such a great job for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and especially, I think, focusing on our state park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, with that, we'll go into the next agenda item is Beth's administrative report. Beth, there you are.
I am here. Good morning, everybody. Beth Shoemate, Division Administrator for the Parks and Recreation Division, and here to deliver my administrator report. And it hasn't been all that long since our October 29th meeting, so not too lengthy of a report since the last one was rather lengthy, but just wanted to provide a few updates to the board, especially with some of the year-end efforts that we have underway. So as many of you are aware, our current strategic plan for Montana State Parks is set to expire at the end of this month. We've had multiple presentations to the board dating back to September of last year to update all of you on an updated plan for Montana State Parks. Our planning effort included taking a critical look at 6 key documents. That included the FWP Vision and Guide, the Parks and Focus Final Recommendations, the Legislative Performance Audit Report, the Montana State Parks Heritage Resources Plan, the statewide Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation Plan. And as we reviewed all of these documents, they all either directly guided our division's work for the past 5 years or had some direct impact on the work that we have done. Between these documents, there were 35 different goals identified and hundreds of actions and steps and recommendations. So as a part of our review, we found that some of them were quite disparate, and some were completed, some were underway, while others were never even started or were even obsolete. Additionally, we have identified items that were, instead of being maybe a goal or a recommendation, they really were just best practices or guiding principles. These are the key tenets of what we do every single day across our state park system and that we won't stop doing. So after compiling all of these goals and actions and recommendations and really taking stock, and we wanted to kind of start from a clean slate. Where are we at the current moment? So we asked the division's Strategic Planning Advisory Committee to review the list, consolidate the goals, develop measurable actions. they helped to, the committee consisted of various park staff from across the state, as well as other FWP divisions. And in the end, we have collectively produced a report that has more direct correlations between FWP's brand beliefs, the vision and guide, the mission of the agency. We've also enhanced our accomplishments to date while highlighting our current state of affairs, including our very important policy work that this board has helped to approve and take action on, including the classification and strategic investment policy. We also then developed key commitments and priorities that really help to explain our strategic approach for the next biennium, with very clear and concise priorities and objectives. We think that this will definitely help aid us in the transition as we move into a new administration to try to inform them of all of the things that we do across all of our programs, and as we move into the 2021 legislative session. So I'm happy to report today that we are now to the print shop this week with this updated strategic plan, and we are referring to it as Montana State Parks Key Commitments and Priorities Document. And if I might, I would like to do a really quick screen share just to give a really quick sneak peek. And I'm hoping that Mike allows me to do a screen share. It's saying you have disabled my screen sharing ability. Mike, do you mind turning that on?
Sorry, working on that real quick.
There we go. So here's the sneak peek. Angie, if you don't mind, or Chair Grove, do you mind just giving me a thumbs up that everybody can see that?
I can see it.
Great. So like I said, this is what we are referring to as our updated action plan for the next biennium. Here's just a really quick view of what will be distributed here in the coming weeks ahead. We will make sure to get this in the hands of whether they are outgoing board members or incoming, as well as current board members. So I don't want to go into too much depth because it will be available very soon. But just wanted to give a really quick sneak peek. Any questions about that before I move on?
I can't see anybody. I would just say I got an opportunity to review it. It is a really good document. It was really a nice read last time I got a chance to look at it, and I appreciate the efforts that went in to improve that document. I think it's going to be quite useful. Does any other member have any questions or comments? Vice Chair Mo?
Madam Chair and Beth, really excited to see it. I was thinking as you were showing it to us that it must be nice to be in such a photogenic line of work. Very hard to outline an English teacher's curriculum with quite the same pizzazz. So I look forward to seeing it.
Well, thank you, Vice Chair Mo, and I have to give all of the credit to especially Pat Doyle, our marketing and communications manager, who has been working really hard behind the scenes for the last couple of years to work with area photographers to go out to our state parks physically to have updated photographs of our state parks. And you see a lot of those highlighted in this document, which is really exciting.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Stone?
Yes, I would just like to comment that I appreciate the fact that there are also photos included that could be Eastern Montana. I'm not sure where the cover photo was taken, but Sometimes we get left out and we just have all mountains and lakes. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Member Stone. And with my passion for Eastern Montana and having lived there for many years, we do not forget about Eastern Montana. They are definitely highlighted as well. So yes.
Thank you. Any other questions for Beth on that? Okay, Beth, any?
Yeah, and I will just, Chair Grove and members of the board, I will add as well that this document will also live on the new refreshed website, which is another part of my update to the board. Very excited to announce that the timeline is still in place with the refreshed FWP Parks integrated website to go live next Monday, I believe, is the actual go live date. Next week, hopefully all goes well. As you can imagine, this is a lot of work behind the scenes for a lot of staff and the contractor to pull all this together. But if you recall the October board meeting, I believe it was October, we had Greg Lemon and Pat provide a little bit of a sneak peek with that refreshed website. So really excited about that as well. So be on the lookout for that. I would now like to turn to some updates regarding tribal consultation and our heritage program. In a variety of places, including Montana law and administrative rules, state agencies are strongly encouraged to integrate tribal consultation into all of our management actions, as well as planning activities as much as possible. However, no land managing state agency in Montana presently has a policy or guidelines that necessarily outlines the approach to tribal consultation, either in terms of what kinds of projects or actions trigger consultation, with which tribes we consult, or how that consultation proceeds. To rectify that situation, internally, we have drafted a set of tribal consultation guidelines for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks that outlines our approach to tribal consultation. These guidelines direct us to consult with all tribes who have ancestral or Aboriginal ties to the area affected by an FWP project or policy. Consultation is often triggered by any project that may impact an archaeological or cultural resource, the development of planning documents or interpretive education materials, or fish and wildlife management actions like the setting of hunting or fishing seasons or quotas. These guidelines are still in the final stages of development and will ideally be signed by the director if adopted. Some other recent tribal consultation activities that I wanted to also mention include that we have reached out to 16 tribal historic preservation offices to gauge their interest in participating in the Missouri Headwaters master planning effort. These tribes all have some degree of Aboriginal tie with the Headwaters area. We are coordinating with the Salish Kootenai College on a planned archaeological field school at Missouri Headwaters in the summer of 2021 as well. This would offer an opportunity for tribal college students to help us more thoroughly understand Aboriginal lifeways within the Missouri Headwaters State Park area. Several members of the Salish Clipsby, Salish Kalispel Culture Committee are also serving on the Fort Owen Interpretive Committee. I know that was highlighted by Chair Grove and some of the current efforts that are underway literally this week, as we seek to use the Helmsley Family Trust Grant that the State Parks Foundation updated the board about during the last meeting. And they were able to secure a really significant grant in order to enhance some of our interpretive materials and displays within Fort Owen State Park. So we are working with this culture committee to tell the most complete story of Fort Owen's remarkable history. We are also talking with them about dual naming Fort Owen with its Salish place name. And I know that was a strong interest by some of the board members, so wanted to make sure and mention that. Any questions about some of our tribal consultation updates? I will add one more thing if I might. And Director Williams, not sure if she's still on the call or not, because I know she's triple booked this morning, but I wanted to also mention the new hire within Fish, Wildlife and Parks, and happy to announce that there's also a tribal consultation and diversity coordinator position now within the agency. And so Director Williams, I don't know if you wanted to mention anything else.
No, just really a long time coming to create that position. And I know she has a ton of energy, and it's really great to get that moving forward. And this policy, the consultation policy, I'm really proud of it as well.
Thank you. Erica, it looked like you were trying to ask a question, or did you want to make a comment on that?
I just wanted to offer my thanks and applause for the efforts. And it seems like there's been a lot of great progress, and I look forward to seeing the policy and meeting the coordinator. Just really appreciate the efforts.
Great, thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Member Lighthizer.
Looks like Member Stone also has a comment.
I have a question. If you mentioned the name of the person, I missed it. So I would like to have the name.
It's Madam Chair, members, it's Quinn Kuka. K-Q-Y-N is her first name, and Kuka, K-U-K-A, is her last name. And she's been just super already. Now that I have the screen, Madam Chair, I also just want to say, I've really been reviewing our mission, our vision, what we've been achieving and or not, is, what is still to do. This is an instance where I think we really are achieving not only our mission, but also that vision of where we are leading out in this arena. Other states don't have this policy in place or coordinator. And so I'm proud of the work that Parks has done, and now throughout the agency in leading out in consultation. It's something we should be doing, and I'm glad that we now will be.
Great, that's exciting. Thank you for all your efforts to make that happen. Beth, did you have additional things?
Yeah, Chair Grove, members of the board, I just have a few other highlights since I attended the National Association of State Park Directors Conference virtually last week, unfortunately not in person, but did attend virtually as much as I could and gained a lot of information just as far as outdoor recreation and camping, especially trends across the nation that we are experiencing. And so just wanted to mention a few noteworthy takeaways. And one in particular is the fact that camping and reservation trends in particular are including much more shorter distances, which is why I think we definitely saw a lot of the Montana residents frequenting our state parks more regularly this last year. And more remote areas are being sought than ever before. People are just sort of desperate to get out and find some of those more remote locations. Significant growth in use of mobile apps and increased desire for digital check-ins and checkouts. So those cashless transactions are really being sought after as well. And just the convenience of having some type of mobile app to make that reservation as you're traveling. Significant amount of new users, as well as a strong desire for booking flexibility and no hassle cancellation policies. So I was really happy to hear Member Lighthizer mention that our website and reservation program looks like it's a little bit more user-friendly than even some of our Western states. 55% of recent RV camper sales are from first-time buyers. So this is almost double from a year ago of what they typically see as far as new first-time buyers. That's up 25% just from 2019. The demographic is also typically much younger and is the fastest growing segment of campers. And we definitely experience this across our state parks here in Montana, where we have a lot of visitors that are coming into our parks that are, not even sure how to pull in or back in one of those RVs or campers, and are looking for some of that assistance from our staff. People are definitely also pent up, and they anticipate that 2021 is projected to be one of the biggest travel seasons ever, especially with some of those more close to home destinations and those newcomers and those new buyers that have all of those campers and RVs ready to hit our parks. So from an operational perspective, people are definitely seeking more touch, hands-free visitor amenities as well, from educational exhibits to comfort stations to those digital pay kiosks. So I just wanted to mention a few of those things, and also that we are hearing from some of our staff from across the state that some of our visitation numbers at especially our more urban-based parks, such as Travelers Rest by Lolo, or Spring Meadow here in Helena, or Lake Elmo in the Billings area, are experiencing visitation numbers that are somewhat consistent with the month of July. So they're still frequenting our parks even at this time of year. Of course, it's been a little bit unseasonably warm this last month, so we'll see what the rest of winter brings, but anticipated a busy 2021 season ahead. And I'll end with that unless there's questions.
Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none. Thanks, Beth. Lots of exciting things happening there. It's fun to see some of these things we've talked about for a while really come into reality. So that's exciting. Okay, so with that, I think we should probably start with our first action item. Approval of the infrastructure investments at Makoshika State Park. And it's my understanding, Beth, you're going to take the lead on that?
Chair Grove, members of the board, Beth Shumate for the record, Division Administrator, Parks Division. Yes, I will take the lead on this agenda item. And I do also have Tom Riley on the call as well to help with questions if there are some. So as a reminder, per revisions made in the 2019 legislative session, the Parks and Recreation Board must approve any proposed capital project expenditures over $50,000. Earlier this year, the McDonough family, who are longtime residents of the Glendive area, recently reached out to the Friends of Makoshika, as well as Montana State Parks, with a strong desire to honor their family. And from my understanding, this includes multiple generations of grandparents and parents and grandkids frequenting Makosha for many decades. And they have this strong desire to enhance this important community-based park. So in conversations with Mr. McDonough, he is prepared to commit a $70,000 donation towards a group use pavilion upon board approval to the Friends of Makoshika. The Friends of Makoshika is the local charitable organization. They might also be listening in on this call as well. And Montana State Parks, we have worked together to recently draft an agreement to address each of the parties' responsibilities and to make sure that we have all of the conditions set forth in how we will proceed with this project. The total estimate for the required consultant construction effort is approximately $145,000 and includes ADA upgrades, parking, and a latrine, as well as an improved trail area to get between the group use pavilion and the amphitheater area. The proposed location of this new structure is adjacent to the existing amphitheater, which will increase usage of both facilities, as well as allow for additional special events. This is the quintessential project that I like to refer to as the trifecta effect. In order for that to occur, there's private support of a local family that is passionate about the park, and they want to contribute towards improving this location. We, Montana State Parks, are a key partner that is also willing to put forth and commit some resources as well as ongoing support in order to provide enhanced visitor amenities to the Glendive community, as well as all of the visitors far and wide. The local businesses are also willing to put forth donated resources, including labor and materials to help construct this visitor amenity so all can enjoy for decades to come. Funding for the infrastructure upgrades would come from remaining parks capital funding balances and donated funds from the McDonough family, as well as these local businesses. There are also local businesses that have agreed to donate the materials and labor for the concrete pad, which is a significant amount. This will further reduce some of the state project costs. So I'd like to just show a quick screen share here for the concept site plan. And I do believe that Colleen was able to send this out to the board just to give everybody a quick sneak peek as far as the preliminary concept site plan that our design and construction unit has put together. So hopefully everybody can now see my screen. And so this is the, right over here, if you can see my little hand, the mouse, this is a large pull through area. So if anybody has been to the upper portion of Makoshika State Park near the amphitheater, the parking situation isn't necessarily ideal for some of those larger vehicles that oftentimes might be frequenting the park. And so this would provide for a large vehicle turnaround area for some of those larger vehicles, as well as improving some of the parking with some of the, just the barriers and concrete rocks. Then over here, you see that we wanted to relocate this existing latrine to a different location. This would allow for improved ADA access for those bathroom facilities by the amphitheater. Over here, this is the improved, we would do some improvements to the existing trail and make that a little bit wider as well. And then this is the group use shelter area with the concrete slab that I just mentioned with some stairs leading up to it. And then of course you can see just some of the general landscaping that we're also considering to put in just to make it aesthetically pleasing as well. We would also be looking at doing a few electrical modifications in order for that group use pavilion to be used with some electricity. So I just wanted to give everybody a really quick sneak peek as far as what this vision looks like for this visitor amenity. I'm just trying to stop sharing my screen. So with that, what we're hoping to do with this project and this additional visitor amenity is to really help disperse traffic from the lower portion of Makoshika State Park. For those that have frequented Makoshika, and I have been there during the Buzzard Days, which is probably one of the busier events of the year at Makoshika. And most of the traffic oftentimes is just on the lower part of the park. And what we're really hoping to drive here is to get those visitors to experience the deeper interior portions of the park. For any of those that have not been to the upper part of Makoshika, I think that's where the real gem is on the upper portions. And so ideally, this group use pavilion will provide for that type of amenity that will drive some of that traffic and desire for those folks to get up near the amphitheater area where we have multiple trails that they can then frequent, improve parking for that as well. So not sure if everybody's aware or not, but the national stat for how many people that never travel more than 1.5 miles from a main parking area or trailhead is over 80%. That's within state parks as well as national parks. So I see this type of project as being able to really disperse that use and to get people to experience Makoshika in a whole new way, in a new location of the park. Makoshika is our largest park as far as landmass. It's over 12,000 acres. There's a lot of room for people to roam and to explore. So this project will provide those additional amenities to the visitors that will hopefully be much more appealing for them to experience all that Makoshika has to offer. The public involvement process and alternatives include that if this is approved by the board, we, FWP, would initiate an environmental assessment and proceed with the public comment process. So it is our agency recommendation to proceed with the capital funding investment of nearly $75,000 and accept the $70,000 donation as proposed for a total project valued at $145,000. And just to close it out, to reiterate, this project definitely addresses the need for improved visitor service amenities in the largest state park in Montana. I'll stand for questions.
Thanks, Beth. Before we ask for board questions, I noticed there's a couple of regional staff, and I'm not sure if there's any public member out there that would also like to make comments before we have board discussion on this. Is there anyone that would like to add to Beth's presentation? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions from members of the board? Vice Chair Moe?
This is an exciting project. Is there a naming opportunity involved with that, or is this strictly what do we call that, an amenity for the park?
Yeah, Chair Grove, Vice Chair Moe, that is something that we will continue to discuss with the McDonough family as well as the Friends of Makoshika. And at this point in time, we are also working on finalizing the donation and sponsorship policy internally. In fact, that is on our agenda tomorrow. So ideally we get that signed and approved, and that would help to identify what some of those provisions are as far as naming within our state parks.
Thank you.
Member Brown, did you have a question?
Yes, just a comment that it's this kind of project is a win-win-win. A win for Makoshika State Park, of course, a win for Glendive and city and all of their businesses, and hopefully a win for the McDonough family. And I strongly support doing the naming recognition for the family. I think a donation of that kind really deserves the naming. But thank you to Michael and his family.
Thank you, Scott. Any other comments or questions from Member Stone?
Yes, well, during my time on the Parks Board, I've had the opportunity to visit with many people who have enjoyed our state parks, and residents and travelers. In my business as a hotel operator, I get to visit with lots of non-resident travelers as well, and they've enjoyed our state parks, and they feel that strong connection. The connection to the landscape and to actually our Montana way of life. And it's not often that we have someone who wants to memorialize the park because of the impact that it has on them and to improve it for future generations. So I think when unsolicited project proposals come to us, it's even more meaningful. It's a project that they have thought would be a great memorial to their family, and it'll be even more meaningful to the park users. So I just would like to give a thank you to the McDonough family for their willingness to add to the park, and I think it'll be great to look forward to the positive impacts it'll have.
Thank you, Member Stone. Yes, I think it's an exciting opportunity. I do have a couple of questions, however. I'd like to know if use of these funds will bump, our state portion of the match, if that will bump any of the other state priorities that I'm assuming we had in the works, and how that impacts any other changes we are going to have in the park. And then also how this addition to the park fits in with our park plan. I mean, most of our parks have, and Makoshika is one of our biggest parks, so most of them have a management plan in place. So I'm just curious if it fits into that overall picture for the park.
Chair Grove, members of the board, I can try to address your first question first, which is in regards to the funding and the 75,000 estimate that we are looking at trying to provide as far as our end of the partnership. And the authority and funding for that is available from some of those capital projects that have come in either under bid or some of the contingency amounts that were associated with some of other capital projects is left over. They're not, so it's essentially kind of the funding dust, if you will, from some of those other capital projects. And we're actually cleaning out some of the 2015 authority and trying to get that allocated towards this project. And as far as the planning question, Chair Grove, I can say that Makoshika State Park is in need of an updated management plan. And as far as this particular project and some of the importance of it, I would just like to highlight that, again, trying to drive that traffic and disperse the use to the upper part of the park, which is oftentimes very underutilized by our visitors, is really one of the key components of why we have gone ahead to work with the McDonough family as well as the Friends of Makoshika. And from my understanding, in talking to the McDonough family, they are also interested in possibly providing ongoing operations and maintenance support of some of these additional visitor amenities for the long term. And so it's definitely one of those partnerships that was definitely, I think, in our best interest for the visitors and to try to not turn down. So hopefully that helps address some of those questions.
It does. Thank you, Beth. I'm surprised that we had funding left over from 5 years ago. Hopefully that's not normally the case. But I am happy that we are able to take advantage of this situation. With that, does anybody have any other comments or questions? Member Lighthizer?
Yeah, I just wanted to echo Member Stone and thank you to the McDonough family. Tremendous gift. I agree with Member Brown. This is a win-win-win. And thank you, Chair Grove, for bringing up the planning component, because that was a question I was gonna bring up as well. Director Shoemate, I like how you pointed out the fact that we really do need to spread folks out in that park. My experience there was similar. We camped at the campground, which was an awesome area, and we spent the first day there, and then we realized on the second day all that was up to explore up top. So maybe there are some opportunities for directing visitors, and there could be some other opportunities to highlight with this project the tremendous opportunities that are up on the hill there. It's a wonderful place. So thank you.
Thank you. I just like to close with, I really hope even whoever's on the board, we get to have a board meeting there someday in the future. I think it would be a fantastic place to have a board meeting, weather permitting, of course. With that, shall we entertain a motion?
Chair Grove, I would move the Parks and Recreation Board approve the expenditure of capital funds for the proposed infrastructure investments at Makoshika State Park at the estimated amount of $145,000.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Scott.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Scott. Any public comment on the motion? Katie?
Grove, members of the commission, I'd just like to restate that in order to give public comment, members of the public that are dialed in need to dial *9 to raise their hand and alert me that they would like to give comment. And I also wonder if it might be helpful for me to reiterate the correct passcode again for the call-in information.
Sure.
I believe the phone number and the webinar ID on the website are correct. It was just the passcode that was incorrect. So that correct passcode is 209782. And again, *9 to raise your hand. And I'm seeing none.
All right, thank you. With that, all those in favor? Or shall we, is everyone clear on what we're voting on? All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Everyone's raising their hand for the record. So it passes unanimously. Thank you, and thank you to the family. What a great opportunity. I'm excited to watch this happen. All right, with that, our next agenda item is the Smith River State Park Biennial Fee Rule Extension. I guess I'm not sure which staff member is going to be providing this for us, but it looks like it might be Ken Soderberg.
Yeah. Chair Grove, members of the board, Ken Soderberg, Chief of Operations for the State Parks Division. And today I'm bringing to you the extension of the existing Smith River fee rule. The Smith River Management Act in 23-2401 through 23-2410 authorizes the board to provide for the administration of the Smith River waterway and adopt rules for this purpose. The department has primary recreation management responsibility for the Smith River under 23-2407. The Smith River State Park and River Corridor Biennial fee rule establishes for private, commercial, and landowner float trips in Smith River State Park. The current rule was last adopted by the board in December 2018 and is scheduled to expire this month, at the end of this month. Upon approval by the board, the fee rule will be in effect for the next biennium until December 2022. We're seeking board approval to extend the Smith River rule into the 2021 float season, and we do not propose any changes to the rule at this time. Last float season was very successful, even among the challenges posed by COVID-19. As Administrator Shoemate reported to the board during her administrator report in September, the department did make administrative managerial procedure adjustments to the floater registration and launch process. The adjustments were initiated under the state's Phase 2 reopening guidelines put out by the governor that remain in effect today. These adjustments included permit holders pre-registering and receiving boat camp assignments prior to arrival via a telephone call with department staff. This reduced large groups gathering at Camp Baker and allowed staff and float parties to better maintain social distancing by spacing launch groups throughout the launch day. The registration and launch process went very smoothly, with many positive comments received as to how it worked from both outfitters and private floaters. As we move into the 2021 float season and begin to take applications in January, we're planning to use the same process to ensure that we remain consistent with Phase 2 guidelines, should that be necessary. This will allow us to communicate the floater registration and launch procedures clearly and consistently to both those considering putting in an application and to those that receive permits after the lottery is drawn. As stated, floater fees for both commercial and private floaters will remain at the current rates, and the rule will go unchanged. Extending this rule in its current form today will not prevent the board from re-examining the rule at a later date. And I've got staff from Region 4 and we'll stand for questions.
Thanks, Ken. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Actually, wait a second. Before we take board questions or comments, I think I'd like to see if there's any member of the public that would like to provide a comment or statement in regard to this fee rule.
Chair Grove, members of the board, I'll just remind the public that's dialed in that it's *9 to raise your hand.
I will also be taking public comment on any action we take. I just thought there may be, since there has not been opportunity for public comment on this process, I just wanted to take it as part of our testimony today. Or is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any questions or comments from the board? Member Brown?
Yep, Madam Chair. I see Colin Moss is on the call as well. And I didn't get to float the Smith last year, but I did the year before. And talked to Colin, and Colin told me, and I'd like to hear from him after I make my comment, but Colin said that most people are surprised at how low the fee is to paddle the Smith. And there are many projects that could be funded with additional revenue from increased floater fees. And I guess I am supportive of, I don't think this is, we've kind of run out of time for this season in that people are going to start flying soon. But I really strongly suggest that we look at those fees for maybe a change in next year's raising them. And Colin, do you mind talking to that point?
Yeah, Member Brown, Chair Grove, other members of the board. You know, that is definitely, I think, something we can look to in the future. You know, for this process today, you know, we just wanted to stay status quo with the biennial rule for the Smith River. It has been quite some time since we have raised fees for both residents and outfitters. 2003 was the last year that we raised fees for resident floaters, for resident adult floaters, and including outfitters. And then the last time we raised fees for non-residents was in 2010. So that is, you know, that is something that we could discuss. We definitely want to discuss it with the Smith River Advisory Council.
Thanks. Thank you, Colin.
Thank
Any other questions or comments? Vice Chair Moe?
I'm a little confused about the scope of what we're being asked to approve today. The title says fee, and that implies that all that we are talking about is fee, but the document itself is quite extensive. Are we adopting the entire document, which would involve all the protocols that are included therein?
The fee section and the rules themselves are all part of one rule. So yes, you would be rolling forward the fees and the rule as they exist today. Yes.
One of my concerns is that we are adopting, but because it's called biennial, we are implying that we are adopting something for 2 years. And while I agree that we are, particularly with the no certain end in sight for the pandemic, that we're not in a position right now to examine whether we should be making some of the adjustments that have been described as successful and incorporate those in the document. But I'm at the same time hoping that we'll be out of this tunnel a year from now, and would at that time really want to look at that. So I don't want to convey to the public that we're locked into this for a biennium. Can you comment on that?
The board does have the opportunity to look at the rule at any time. So traditionally, what we have done is establish it as a biennial rule, but that rule can be looked at the board's pleasure.
Is there, if I may follow up, Madam Chair,
Vice Chair Mo?
is there any downside to our saying in a revised motion that we intend to revisit it a year from now?
I might defer that to Zach Zippel.
Zach, are you available?
Chair Grove, I am. Chair Grove, members of the board, to answer Mr. Soto's question, I think that to the degree that we begin to modify the proposal that is currently before the board in a final form, we might need to consider pulling back, making it a proposed motion that would then be submitted for public comment and finalized at a later date. Certainly, I think that the board can revisit the rule as Mr. Soderberg was indicating in a year, and I don't think it necessitates a change in the motion at this point.
Well, if I may, Zach, can we make the motion where we just approve the fees for a year rather than biennial? I think it's the main question.
Yes, I believe you can.
We can?
Yes.
Thank you. Any further questions, Vice Chair Mo?
No.
Member,
I guess well, if we're only on questions, I'll wait to make comments later.
thank you. Member Stone?
I was just going to make a comment. So, if we are going to revisit it though, excuse me, let's try to put it on the agenda more like September or October, not leave it till December because we will be in the same position. I would suggest that the motion not include we revisit it in a year because that takes us to next December again.
Thank you. Good point. Member Brown, it looks like you've unmuted. Did you have any other comments or questions?
I don't have a comment.
Okay, thank you.
No, I don't, but I support what I support the idea of being able to take a look at it again next year, earlier than December, more like August or September.
Vice Chair Mo, did you have an additional comment?
I do. First of all, I think we have an obligation to the outfitters in particular, and to people that really, they plan their lives around getting on the Smith, to adopt a fee today. And I think we need to keep that fee the same. And I think that we are not ready in terms of a public process that has gone through the advisory council and another year under our belts of some of these new protocols to make the change. So in short, I am not willing to postpone until a January meeting this issue. And I do think that we need more time to look at the non-fee aspects of the rule. But if the motion is acceptable, Zach, the motion that I would propose is that the Park and Rec Board approve the extension of the 2019 Smith River Biennial fee rule until December of 2021. And that would establish an end date that would trigger all those earlier discussions that we need to have had prior to our making a decision no later than the time this expires, which would be a year from now. Zach, is that an acceptable motion?
Vice Chair Mo, yes, that's acceptable. I mean, we're less than we noticed up. We noticed up a 2-year rule extension. I think something less than that is perfectly acceptable.
Okay.
Thank you. Member Brown, did you have a comment?
Yeah, so does that mean that we wouldn't look at fees until December of next year, Vice Chair Mo?
Yes, we would incorporate.
A point. I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
All of those other groups would be looking at this as well as the protocols anytime before December of 2021. But just as this particular agreement has lapsed as of this December, the one that we would be approving today, assuming we do approve it, would lapse a year from now. And I think that would put the impetus on the various people to look at the protocols, look at the fees, and be ready with something before the board no later than a year from now. Doesn't preclude it being earlier. But it would go into effect for the 2022 season.
I guess a point that you had made earlier, I'm sorry, a point that you had made earlier, Vice Chair Mo, was the impact on outfitters. And I wonder what the timing for them in setting their rate. I may start taking reservations, well before the float occurs. And so with that in mind, I think if it could be done before December, that would give them time to build in any increase in fees in their pricing.
Thank you, Member Brown. Well, I think that there's a couple of comments I would like to make to follow up on these discussion items before we entertain the motion. I'd like to kind of address Member Stone's comment about the fact that we are speaking to this at such a late date. I think it's extremely disappointing that the board has been provided this rule at such a late hour. It's my understanding there was even an advisory council meeting in October and this was not presented to them. I feel like the board's role here, our responsibility is public accountability and transparency. And when we are provided a rule update weeks before it is outdated, that does not let us be an effective board. And I think I've had numerous discussions with numerous people in the past week because we have had this before us for only a week. And there's been lots of different finger pointing and responsibility passing the buck. And I think when we get done with our discussion today, I'm going to ask for a list of things that should be provided to the new board so that they do not get put into this situation. This is an extremely important state park within our system. We have high public use. It's very important from a revenue perspective, just for protecting the resource. So I think we need to make sure that we have these kind of decisions before the board 3 months in advance. I would like to see that, and I'm surprised that legal does not have a system in place to monitor these kind of things. I think it's important we look at all of the rules that we have in place and see if there is any other considerations the board need. We need 3 months in advance so that the public has the opportunity to be involved in these processes. I do also think we are looking to update the Smith River Recreation Plan. I think, as Vice Chair Moe pointed out, there are a lot of protocol and procedural items in this biennial rule that I think need to be revisited. I'm surprised that they are coupled with the fee rule. I find that unusual, and I think we should revisit that as well. And I think there's an opportunity here in the next planning process that we revisit the fees, we revisit how this fee rule is structured, and what the protocols should be. So I would really like to encourage that the planning efforts start early, preferably by March of next year, and that it not be Smith River Recreation Plan, but be Smith River Management Plan as a whole. Our statutes require us to look at preservation and conservation of the habitat as well. And I don't like the implication that the plan is focused on recreation only. So those are my 2 cents worth. I think we are in a position where we do have to, as Member Brown and Vice Chair Moe and Member Stone have all pointed out, we have a commitment here that we have to provide stability for the business and visitor community for that state park. And we are committed to doing that. But I would hope in the future we have more opportunity to have a more meaningful discussion about this. So that's my thoughts on it. I would like to then revisit the motion. Mary, could you restate the motion you had so that we can have an opportunity to get public comment on that as well?
Yes, and before I do, in response to your concern, Member Brown, the protocols for board decision-making on rules would take care of your concern. What we're trying to do is stabilize the expectation for the next season at the same time that we set up a protocol for a thoughtful and more deliberate approval for the remainder of the biennial. And so having the term of this agreement and lapse by December of next year provides for both of those. And I hope that will answer your concern. With that said, here is the motion. I move that the Parks and Recreation Board approve the extension of the 2019 Smith River Biennial Fee Rule to expire by December 31st of 2021.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Scott. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Madam Chair, I got kicked off for a moment, so I just would like to, I apologize, I missed a little bit of the discussion. From everything I heard, I agree with what I'm hearing related to stabilizing the fees for the short term, having another opportunity to revisit those potentially next year, and really taking a hard look at the procedures based on what's in the 2017 document. There's some clunky procedures there that I think could really use to be revisited based on what we've learned in the last year with these revised COVID protocols. And I think it would also be a good opportunity to see if there's ways to have more connectivity with the White Sulphur community. It seems Camp Baker is so isolated and several miles from town, and I think there could be some great synergies to keep people in town longer and to be able to invest more resources in that community. So potentially, if we had the opportunity to revisit those procedures, we could involve folks from that community and make something that's that's better for better partnership with White Sulphur. So that's all I had to say.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Is there any public comment on the motion?
Chair Grove, members of the board, just a reminder out there to the public, it's *9 to raise your hand. I am seeing none.
Thank you. Based on that, shall we vote? All those in favor of the motion, say aye or raise your hand,
Aye.
or both? Aye. All have voted aye, Katie, just in case you can't see all that. So motion carries. Thank you, and thank you for the good discussion. Before we get to the final item of issues not on the agenda, as I alluded to earlier, there's a couple of things that I would like to get on the record, regardless of who's on this board next year. I think there's a couple of items they need to be effective and monitor these processes. And so I'd just like to request, Beth, that for the first board meeting next year, I think there needs to be a list of all the board policies and their renewal dates. I would like a 3-month trigger point so that we have time to have meaningful discussion on any of those policies that we may need to revisit. I'd also like a list of all the policies we've discussed in the last biennium that we haven't got. There have been a couple of them alluded to today, the donation and naming policy, a cultural and tribal policy development. And I haven't had an opportunity to go through our minutes, but I'm hoping someone on the staff can do that and let us know which policies we've asked for and when those will be implemented as well. And then last, but certainly not least, I think there needs to be some kind of organizational reporting plan for the board. As I noted earlier, it's difficult to find who's responsible for certain things sometimes. And as a board member, that becomes very frustrating. I think there's been some confusion on responsibility and reporting structure. I know there has been reorganization in the past, but we've heard this same discussion when we talk about park planning also. You know, I think we need to really become clear on what's the role of the Helena office staff, Helena staff office, or whatever, Helena responsibilities, including legal. I'm often confused on when legal should be involved, or why we aren't getting some more legal involvement in this. I think there needs to be clear delineation on what the responsibility is between Helena, the regional supervisors, and the regional parks managers. That's been an organizational change, and it appears to be getting confused on who's responsible for that. And then also the role of the parks managers. This is not the first time that we've had a conversation. It reminds me of the Headwater State Parks planning process, where is it the parks manager responsibility? Is it the regional supervisor's responsibility? Is it the regional parks manager supervise responsibility, or is it the parks division planning responsibility? And I think we need to know that answer. And I think it will, because it seems too often we are faced with last minute decisions here or things falling through the cracks. So I think in order for our next board orientation, no matter who's sitting in this chair, she or he is going to need that kind of information. I don't like the board being put in the position where we are picking up the pieces or the last to know. I don't like things the last minute. I don't think it provides a useful or effective process. So I'd highly recommend that be handed to any new board that comes into place in the next year. Is there any comment or additions that other board members would like to add? I know I kind of teed off there, but it's a frustrating, and I apologize for ending on that note. I do think we've achieved great things in the past couple years. You know, if you, as Beth pointed out in her report, if you look back at the audit report, the strategic plan, the Parks and Focus report, I know we've achieved great things. But it seems to me that the management just needs to be solidified and leadership strengthened here for us to move forward. Because we're now at the point where we are getting opportunities like we saw today. We're receiving donations, we're receiving significant grants to help with our state parks. And we need to make sure that we're in a position to make the best use of those opportunities. And I think we can get there. I don't know if I'll be here leading it, but I think we can get there. And I think state parks is a better place for all of that. Member Stone, are you raising your hand?
Yes, thank you. I would just like to comment that I think Chairman Grove, you've given us great leadership on this board, and I think it's very wise of you to prepare for whoever might be on the next board to carry those things forward that we've learned through experience. So thank you very much for bringing that up. I think you're right on target, and appreciate everything you've done for this board and for the parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Member Brown?
Yes, Angie, I'd just like to, I'd like to thank you and your outstanding leadership on this board. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I feel like because of your work, we've really gotten a lot of things accomplished. And I've also appreciated and enjoyed working with Betty and Erica. And I sure hope that I would sure like to have all three of you back on this board. I think we're getting things done. So we'll have to see.
Thank you, Scott. Vice Chair Mo, did you have a comment?
Well, it seems to be that moment. You know, as I look around the screen, one of the great joys of public service is that you meet so many good people. And that includes the people that are in the agency who work so hard and often unheralded. And people like you all that are on the board. We will come back in 2021 and no doubt there will be differences. But it's been such a delight to see the world through each one of your eyes and see the work we do getting done, you know, bit by bit. And so thank you all for a wonderful experience as a board.
Thank you. Any further comment? All right, the only thing left is if there's any public comment for issues not on the agenda. Katie, can you let us know if there's any public members out there?
Chair Grove, members of the board, we do have someone that would like to give a comment.
Is there someone there? Hello?
So phone number ending in 023, you're unmuted on our end, but it looks like you're still muted on your end. You could try dialing *6 to unmute yourself.
There we go.
There we go.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Welcome
Perfect.
to the state.
Well, thank you, Chair Grove, members of the board. This is Colin Cooney, C-O-O-N-E-Y. I'm here on behalf of Trout Unlimited. Chair Grove, I just wanted to make a comment on something you had said earlier. I wasn't quite sure when the correct or the appropriate time to comment was, so I decided just to wait till the end. And what you had mentioned was the hopes that the next State Parks Board and the Parks Department work on updating the Smith River Rec Rule and Management Rule. I think what you had said about making sure that that management rule include habitat and not just recreation is very important. I think it already does, but just making sure that that is emphasized. That rec rule was last updated in 2009, I believe. So we do believe that it is important that becomes a priority for the next Parks Department and State Parks Board. Obviously, funding is an issue, and we do believe that the corridor enhancement account has potential to be used as funding for that, especially if habitat is emphasized in that plan. So just wanted to put that on the record and touch on what you had said earlier. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Colin, and thanks for calling in this process. Any further public comment?
Chair Grove, members of the board, that's it.
All right, with that, I guess it's time to adjourn. I hope I get to see you people in person someday. Happy holidays, everyone, and thanks for taking this time. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
So Mike, I think I just stopped the recording. And so I think that's all that needs to be done.
I think so. I'm just trying to get it so it's not live on YouTube anymore.
Thanks for all your help today.
Yeah, you bet. You bet. I will be in touch with you here shortly.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.